Okay. Hi, Abby. So I thought this would be better to do it by video, especially when it comes to something like practical like this, to be able to show rather than, kind of like struggling to describe it and articulate it in text. I think that would be kind of too difficult. And hopefully this will work out. I'm sorry I don't have the most professional setup, but I think I was able to kind of like hack an arrangement here where you should be able to see most of my body and I don't think I'll be too out of frame. I'll try to make adjustments as I need to. But so the recommendation that I had for you as far as practice is concerned, um, the first form I'll show you, and there are two others that are part of the set that I wouldn't recommend doing right now, but we can transition to that if you wanted to continue. It's something that is very simple and also energetically and spiritually speaking is fundamental. It's something. This is a principle that you may find in particularly represented in the arts based on Zen principles, Taoism, and things like that, where there is a noble simplicity associated with more and more as one progresses. So that at the most advanced level of practice, it is oddly enough the most simple. Not least of which because most of what is going on is internalized. And so the external form becomes less of a dependent as time goes on. There's something in Zen called the principle of the bamboo shoot. And it's typically displayed in the form of a painting that is done with a single stroke of a calligraphic brush. And it's quite literally one stroke. And this is meant to represent that at the most advanced level, at the highest level of existence and also practice, engagement with existence as a being, it is most simple. Everything is integral, is constellated within just one expression, one form. So in a sense, the principle is that the indicator of advancement is kind of as opposed really to material development, not how complex a form is, but how much it integrates implicitly, how much it represents implicitly. So the reason why I'm talking about all this is because it's an extremely important teaching and principle, not just generally speaking, but especially when it comes to the internal martial arts, any of the arts associated with Zen, which are primarily Japanese, which actually derived from a Chinese system that was separate from Taoism. But you will also find this in Taoism. If you have or you ever read the Tao Te Ching, which I highly recommend, you'll find this kind of sort of seasoned throughout the work and the philosophy. So innate of this, I know you become familiar with Qigong and now with Tai Chi, and I think it's great that you're doing the 24 form. I think it's a great place to start. It's sort of simple enough that somebody who's just beginning can excel at it through practice and have in that a whole form of practice. So you're getting a real taste of the complexity and sophistication of an internal art in its entirety, while it's also accessible. So I think it's a great place for you to start, and I'm really glad that you're doing it. Just from what I saw from the video you sent, I think it's great. So I'm really happy that it works for you. And so what I'm going to show you just today, and by the way, I do have my own personal practice that I've never shared with anyone, and I'd be more than happy to share it in its entirety eventually with you. I will say that it's very specially attuned to me as a person and where I am in my life and practice. So, I no longer practice the more complicated forms of sort of like Tai Chi or Bagua or Karate or Shaolin and things like that. My practice is really focused on simplicity, like having boiled down all of the geometrical principles of the Qigong and the martial arts that I had learned up to now and representing them in the most simple or integrated forms. But this one I'm going to show you is a part of, you will recognize it, sometimes it's called embracing the tree. It's a fundamental form. And what I mean by that is according to the kind of definition of integral sophistication that I just described. And I would highly recommend your practice will be improved immeasurably. I mean, there are people, there are like the most advanced practitioners in China will do just this for 60 minutes or something. And I certainly don't recommend doing it for 60 minutes at this point, but and that will be their whole practice because so much can be integrated into it because it's so fundamental. So, and you will recognize it because it's something that you will find particularly in almost every Tai Chi form at some point, some part of it. Then I will also display the next two sets in this particular set that I practice. Um, but I would just recommend you do just the embracing the tree practice for now. Um, and I think I'll actually start it in another video because I don't know how long my phone will record a video. So again, this is called embracing the tree, and I would recommend try to kind of bookend your practices. Whatever your practice period might be in any particular day, start with this and then close with this. And it's a fantastic way also to kind of like seal the energy signatures that you've engaged with while you are practicing whatever you are practicing. It doesn't even have to just be Tai Chi. It could be a number of different forms. I mean, even if it's just like a different system of martial arts. So I will display it now. Let me see. 6 minutes. That's not so bad. Okay, I think I probably have more time than I think. So I'm actually going to show you the form now. Now, you're probably familiar. I noticed in the video he's really good at setting things up and making sure that somebody has their alignments correct before attempting transitions and things like that. So what you want to do is something you're probably already familiar with. You know, you want to have your feet, generally speaking, about shoulder length apart. And you want to get used to just rooting yourself, like sort of sinking into your energy. And this is going to be extremely important. Even just this very simple thing can be so very variable. You know, typically when I do this, I haven't really taught in a long time, but I typically qualify the statement that you want to sink your knees, because a lot of time what people do is, especially in the beginning, there's a tendency to overuse the muscles. And it's important to use the muscles because that's what's going to provide the structure, muscles, tendons, ligaments, and things like that to the forms. But the idea is to get to the point, and this is really where the beginner starts to like transition into an intermediate practitioner, into like somebody who's actually like fully a practitioner, is when the muscles are following along the energy as they go. And it really, you start to feel all of this like poetry that practitioners speak in about, you know, moving like the wind through the trees and things like that, or a river cutting its way through a rock. These kind of things somebody with a poetic soul, with a contemplative soul can get. But when somebody is practicing these arts, once you get past a certain point, it becomes an entirely different experience, precisely because it does become experiential. It means something so much more. So for now, you want to make sure as you sink your root, your knees will kind of loosen in the back quite naturally. And you should feel a structuring in your hips. Your sacral and coccyx region of the spine in particular should kind of quite naturally straighten a bit. And then you should feel in the center of the back, particularly in the shoulders and then into the neck, a loosening or opening is probably a better way to put it. And that's how you know you're getting it. And you don't want to sink much more. Sorry if you heard that, that's my air conditioning. But you don't want to sink much more past the point where you're really feeling that along the entirety of the spine. And now, once the neck starts opening up and loosening, you should also feel the head sort of, there's this natural tension that especially we all really have now associated with spending so much time kind of like peering into the black mirror of this technology, and a kind of leaning and kyphosis of the shoulders and the upper back, as sort of esoterically speaking, like the energy, our soul's energy is being drawn out through the eyes. And there's a whole other story to be told about that. But so this really becomes, this kind of alignment is really also perfect, even in just physical terms, for recovering from that. So once you start to feel that neck opening, it's, you know you got it. It's almost as if you can feel as if a string were attached to the crown of your head, and we're kind of lightly, and I emphasize lightly suspending you from the top of the crown through the spine as you've sunk into the root, into the ground. And that's it right there. That's it. Then you've got it. So, just another aside. There's, I think he was a stage actor quite some time ago, and he developed something called Alexander techniques. His last name was Alexander. And he said something, liberate the neck and set the body free. The neck is such an extremely important region, even in medicine. I mean, it has so much going on between it. It is the territory that exists between essentially the representative of our mind and our body. It's critical. So we can use this as an excellent metric for when we've got that alignment, particularly the up-down alignment, which is sort of the trunk of our tree, correctly aligned, which then enables, since this is our stability, a flexibility in the rest of our body. So now I will transition. What's the time? Okay. Just want to make sure I'm okay. I think I'll stop at 20 minutes because I think I seem to remember there's some kind of limit on it. So, okay. So from here, I don't tend to do any of the complicated sort of salutations. I'm not criticizing anyone who does, but you know this kind of stuff and everything like that. It's very martial arts, and I for me, once I get into that alignment, I simply, the thumb in the palm of the hand, just lightly in the palm of the hand, and I guess you can call this the frenulum of the hand, between the thumb and the index finger, just together like this, and then palm over the back of the hand, and just right over the dantian. This is where the qi is housed, this sort of couple of inches beneath the navel, okay? So right over top of the dantian there. And then this is going to be all about meditative quality, contemplative depth, and letting the stillness stir the energy. So what's happening is in the yogic arts, although I don't refer to them very often, there's the principle of the kashas, and sort of the practice is to sink deeper and deeper through the kashas. And so that's kind of what we're doing, sinking deeper and deeper into our root, getting used to the activity, the productivity of stillness and silence. And getting our breathing settled and serene, nice and even. And typically I coordinate the inhales with an outward movement, but not always. But always the breath should be coordinated with the movements. It's critical. Just when you're ready, just up the sort of midline, not touching the body, but very close. And then we go out. Now I apologize for the angle of the phone. I can see now it's a little bit awkward. But The hands, when they come out, you can kind of see why it's called embracing the tree, embracing the sphere, is it sometimes called. Um, Now, one of the things you'll notice is that the palms are facing the body. And this is an important, in the Tai Chi form, what you'll notice is at the end, for instance, or during the form, the palms will be facing down to kind of guide or push the energy back typically to the root or into the Dantian region. Here we're not doing that. Here what we're doing is we're creating a sort of spherical feedback system with the energy. Okay, so what you want is, you want I don't know if you can notice this, particularly given the angle, but the palms are going to be facing the body, fingers, sort of the hand should be relatively loose. One of the things about this practice is getting accustomed to structure being created without tension. So, palms facing the body, the fingers relatively loose, and the hand position is going to be slightly above the center line. So the hands are not down here at the heart, where the arms and the hands are perfectly aligned horizontally, but rather they're kind of like at the level of the thymus, between the thyroid and the heart. So your hands are going to be slightly above where the elbows are. And you're just going to hold this position. And what I'd recommend is doing this, developing your ability to stay in this position meditatively without struggle, so to speak, without transitioning to needing to muscle your way through it. So this is a really good way to get used to that principle of structure, natural structure without struggle. And so when you start out, you kind of have to measure time. Looking at a clock can be distracting, so you can use breath counts, counting each cycle of breath 1. So inhale, exhale 1, inhale, exhale 2. I wouldn't recommend saying inhale, exhale, it's just too discursive, so just to count, just using the numbers. And I would recommend just not rushing. Don't rush. There's nowhere you need to go. And then doing this to open as an overture to your practice, whatever your practice may be, and then to close it as well. And then you can also do this at any time when you're feeling unfocused, when you're feeling misaligned, when you're feeling overwhelmed asymmetrically by a particular emotion or set of emotions. This is a tremendously useful practice to give the body peaceful structure and to sort of provoke the energy into harmony. And so, getting used to doing it for longer and longer periods. Don't stress about, making progress in that way. I'd suggest starting out, if you can, with 108 breaths. And you could do it in sets of 108. That's typically what I do with meditation. But if you find your own system, please, by all means, that's really what this is about. It's about finding your own mode of self-expression. We learn the principles of practice from other people, but they are ultimately in service of finding our true self. So, and then when you're done, you would just kind of lightly lower the sphere here to the Dantian, and then join the hands again, and then settle in this position, letting the energy that you've just developed settle as well. And then just open the hands. And that's that. We're at 1930, so I'm going to see where we're at.